Hi, welcome to the Soul Planner Reset, Refocus 3-day journey together. I'm excited to go on this journey with you. I am Sarah from Soul Planners. So, I am the creator of a paper planner called the Soul Planner. And I am also a mom of 4 kids. I'm married to someone who's in full time ministry. I also work a part time job, 20 hours a week. And I've just had to learn how to manage my time really well. And I love that topic. It just lights me up to figure out what can I focus on to really make the best use of my time for my family, for my work. I have been building the Soul Planner business for 3 or 4 years, and I've always had to fit it in on about 4 hours a week. In some seasons, it's a little bit more, but I really never can squeeze it in much more than 5 hours a week. So I just can't wait to share with you what I've learned along the way. And I know a lot of you are either moms or you're running businesses or you're working professionally and running a side business. And so I am just excited to come along you and for us to join together and get to know other go-getters. So let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen with you. So here we go. The reset, refocus journey together. This is what I want to go over. We are going to just learn how we're going to start off by learning how emotions and productivity are connected. I love to jump into just the how to and the practicals, but I kept running into but why is this important? But why is this important? And a lot of it has to do with our emotions. So that's what we're going to go over today. Tomorrow, we're going to jump into what it means to be the CEO of both your home and a business, because you're both. And then day 3, we're going to wrap up with just some really practical strategies so you can win both at work and at home and have just a beautiful balance between the two. Okay, so over the next 3 days, I have a couple suggestions to get the most out of your time. And I'm going to be brief on these videos because I know you're busy and I know there's other things going on. So the first thing is I'm just asking you to just do the work. Just do the work. There's a workbook and you will get more out of it by answering those questions, and they build on each other. So just take the 10 minutes that it'll probably take you to fill out the workbook page today. I'll give you some guidance on that, but actually do it. And then be willing to take responsibility for what you learn about yourself. We are going to be identifying areas that we need to grow. And so just be honest with yourself. And it's not like I don't want you to feel shame. I just want you to admit where you need to grow so that we can move forward. I also want you to ask great questions, get resourceful. We're going to get creative if we need to. And then I want you to join the Facebook group if you haven't already, and just spread the word if you can. If there's other people that would benefit from being on this 3-day journey, like today's the day to get them in, and it's free for them. And honestly, it could really create a lot of excellent conversations for you and them too. So if it's an accountability partner, someone you work with, someone that you just had a conversation with and they're struggling with overwhelm, invite them in. In the Facebook group is where our giveaways are going to be. So if you like prizes and free things, then definitely join the Facebook group. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, what's your best productivity tip? And my answer wouldn't have really been emotional management right off the top of my head, but emotional management is your best productivity tool, surprisingly. Emotional management is probably more important than you think and affecting your time more than you think. The leaders that are able to experience both extreme business and organizational growth and have rich, meaningful relationships all have highly developed emotional intelligence. And a lot of research, and you probably maybe have come across this, especially if you're in business, you've probably heard this. It's one of the most predictable factors of success, way more than your IQ. And we know that there's a connection between your mind, your heart, and your actions. Sometimes your mouth is sometimes acting for you, but there is a connection between them. And I'm convinced that time management it's not just planning your schedule. It's like your whole self and your whole life. It's way more than just scheduling. And time management, I would label that as like system intelligence. And then there's emotional intelligence. It's often abbreviated to EQ. So you'll see that in some of the notes. But they are blended together. And when your mind and your heart and your actions are aligned, the healthier your emotional management will be. Okay, so the blend of emotions and structure, they kind of seem opposite, but they're really dependent on each other because your best plans cannot be followed when you're completely overwhelmed by emotions. You could have the prettiest planner and the best laid out plans and the best highlighters, but if you are an emotional mess, you can't follow that plan. You can't see clearly, and you're constantly getting knocked off track. And if your emotional management isn't strong, you don't know how to get back on track. However, on the other side, structure and order and planning is necessary to be able to see clearly as well. And I really believe we're not meant to live in complete chaos. And so there needs to be some kind of order and structure in order for you to thrive emotionally as well. So they're both so important. They're dependent on each other. And I want you to have both. I want you to have strong emotional management and strong time management skills too. Because if emotional management is the biggest predictor of success, time management is like the pathway that keeps it clear for you to get to success. And then here's a quote by Dr. John Townsend about the importance of the blend between emotions and structure. Basically, our brains, just the way they work, they crave structure. And you want to operate out of the prefrontal cortex that will help you make the best decisions. Okay, so EQ, emotional intelligence. Let's jump in real quick. I want you to look at this list of people with low EQ. Here's a very small list of things that might describe characteristics of someone with low IQ. If you're easily distracted, hard to please, bossy, confrontational, poor listener, unresponsive, you start and you stop, so you're not consistent, unmotivated. That's a really big one. If you just can't get yourself motivated, that is a sign of low EQ. Wishy-washy, stingy, closed off, or no boundaries. You could be like super closed off, or you could be like not closed off enough. One extreme or the other. Think about just like a boss that is not a very good boss, and that could be that's a sign of low EQ, like an overbearing boss. We all have a little bit of that in us, though. So I want you to take responsibility and see, like, what part of the bad boss do I have in me? And then in contrast, if you look at the high EQ, I think it helps to really look at so what does someone with high EQ, what does that look like? Because we want to model after that. So people with high EQ typically are really stable and systematic. Isn't that funny? It's systematic is a sign of someone with high emotions, or high emotional management. Detailed, decisive, warm, encouraging, sociable, reliable, predictable, consistent, able to handle difficult people, generous, a good judge of character, not easily offended, and aware of your strengths, and which kind of helps you decide where to spend your time. And you can see this as both things that deal with yourself and areas that deal with other people. And so I'm going to break it down to like the four main areas. And as I'm going through the four main areas of emotional management, this is where I want you to really like dig in your soul. Like, where do you need to grow the most? Some of them are like, I can't believe people struggle with that because it's so easy to you. But there's going to be some that's like, yep, that's totally me. And I'm not coming here because I think I'm not speaking from a place where I figured this out. I know exactly where I need to grow. As I was preparing for this, I became even more aware of like, wow, I have more growth than I even knew I needed to do in some of the areas. So just be honest and realistic with yourself, take responsibility, and we're going to identify what's the area you want to grow in the most. Okay, so the first section is going to be self and others. So we're going to focus on the self section first. So this category is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions. And within that, there's self-awareness and self-management. And in the self-awareness, That is the foundation of emotional management, of emotional intelligence, is being able to recognize and understand your own emotions. So that is, you want that foundation to be strong. It's the ability to accurately perceive your own emotions in the moment. That's a big part of it, in the moment. Some possible ways that you can work on improving this is keeping an emotions journal. So for some people, they're not aware of their emotions, so it's hard to work on a specific emotion if you're not aware of it. So, and by journal, it could be a journal, or it could be just a piece of paper or a post-it that you kind of keep on the side of your planner. Just things that you jot down just to start noticing and labeling your emotions and your feelings, and expanding your emotional vocab. That would be something you could look up and grow in, just giving more words, because it's not just anger. It's not just sadness. It could be frustration. Frustration could be a part of sadness or anger. So giving yourself more words to choose from will help you recognize and label your own emotions. And then instead of saying this emotion is bad, just be curious with your emotions. Why do you do the things that you do? Be curious about the message that your emotions are sending you. For an example, the feeling of overwhelm. I don't want you to think that being overwhelmed means you're failing. It's just like a red flag. It's just sending you a message. It's a gauge. I um it was a couple years ago. This always happens when I'm driving. I'm feeling really overwhelmed, and I'm trying to figure out, why am I so overwhelmed? And it was this repeated feeling that always came up at the same time of year. And I realized, in this season, this is a signal to me. I either need to drop some things or I need to get some more help. And I was able to just use it as a signal, figure out what I needed, and make a change. So for a couple years in a row, in the fall, when I knew it was the busiest season, I just got more help. I had a sitter come to the house one more extra morning a week, just for a couple weeks. That's what I needed. I just needed some extra help. That's not the first feeling, though. The first feeling was overwhelmed, frustrated, like irritated, unmotivated, even though there was a million things to do. Those were the first things I was experiencing. But then I was able to just look into it, be curious, and use that as a gauge and figure out, I just need some more help. Knowing your priorities also helps. Knowing what's important to you helps you navigate your emotions. And then meditating, just like being still and trying to notice your emotions, is one way to improve that. Okay, let's move on. Self-management. That is knowing whether to act or not to act. That is self-control. It's your reactions. Once you are able to identify your emotions, what do you do with them? Are you able to overcome some of your emotions that are knocking you off track? Are you able to perceive them and manage them? The biggest way to improve in this is to take control of self-talk. There's probably a lot of chatter going on in your mind. Memorize truth. Remind yourself of truth. Affirmations is another way. We're going to get into that on day 3. If it's like an intense emotion, it sounds so elementary, but just counting to 10, it shifts your focus, and it brings that control back, the ability to control a negative emotion. And also just knowing what situations are most frustrating to you, and either avoiding them or setting up something in that situation that allows you to control your emotions or calm down. But you can't even work on that if you don't know what those situations are. And part of our homework today is going to help you with that. Okay, let's move into the other category, others. The ability to recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of other people. So social awareness, relationship management. Let's jump into social awareness. Social awareness is being able to pick up on the emotions of other people, to read a room. Some people are really good at reading a room. Some people are completely oblivious. So where are you at with that? Being able to see from another person's perspective. Listening and observing in real time. Being able to do that, not later when you're reflecting on the conversation, but if you can do it in real time, that is a sign of highly developed emotional intelligence. Ways to improve your social awareness. Start with greeting people by name. looking them in the eye, greeting them by name. And it sounds kind of silly, but this can be really helpful. When you're watching a show or a movie, just try to identify the emotions of the characters. So if this is an area of struggle for you, sometimes it's really stressful to try to do it in real time. You're trying to focus on the conversation, but then you're trying to notice emotions at the same time. So doing it while you're watching a show or a movie where they tend to exaggerate the emotions anyway, it is a safe place for you to begin to try to label those emotions and notice them. And then relationship management, that's being able to build a bond with someone, being able to interact and communicate, not just notice what they're feeling and what their emotions are, but knowing how to relate and interact with those emotions that other person is experiencing. And you can see how I feel like this is kind of relationship management is where I feel like leaders stand out from followers. However, you can't really have great relationship management if you are completely unaware of your own emotions. So you can see how that self-awareness is the foundation. Great relationship management removes competition. It does. And tough relationships become easier to manage with high EQ. So you have such great relationship management. It doesn't mean that you don't have conflict. It just means you're able to manage them much easier. Ways to improve: accept and maybe even seek feedback, and then acknowledge other people's feelings in the conversation in real time. So you're not just noticing it, but you're actually acknowledging it, and you know how to do that. Are you guys starting to get a sense of like, ooh, I know where I need to grow? Which area do you need to grow in most? Okay, I want you to think about that for a couple minutes. Which area do you need to grow in most in emotional management? Self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship management? Which area would benefit your life the most if you grew in it? Okay, in that area, let's say it's relationship management. That's the area you really want to grow in. What are the characteristics of someone with a highly developed emotional intelligence in that area? So if it's relationship management, what are the characteristics of someone that's really great at relationship management? If you can picture someone like that, or if you just know those characteristics, I want you to write those down. Give yourself a picture of what healthy emotional management looks like in that area. And how's your time management going to improve once you grow in that area? If you guys want more research, because emotional management is a deep, deep topic that you could study for years. This was just the briefest overview, to help you start identifying where we're going to grow. Here's some additional resources for you. People Fuel was a book recommended to me by it's by Dr. John Townsend, who helped write the Boundaries book. And People Fuel, I feel like, is a lot about emotional needs, but it was really great if you want to grow in the others category, in the social awareness and relationship management. Very detailed information in there, very helpful. Harvard Business Review's 10 must reads on emotional intelligence. It's a book with like a bunch of essays in it. This video, I'll share, these links are all in your email. Find your blind spot. There's this quiz about reading people that I took it and I failed. I got a 10 out of 20. It was just people's facial expressions, and I had a hard time identifying it. And it really educates you on, this is the difference between like shame and sadness. Like really, they can be really closely related, and it tells you the difference in what people do with their faces and their hand gestures. I'll share this other great link with you. Are you emotionally intelligent? How can you tell? Just a blog article. Emotional Intelligence 2.0 so is a book. And then Emotionally Healthy Spirituality is an excellent book if you want to really dig deep in your faith, with your spirituality and your emotions, and what healthy emotions look like. Excellent book. Okay, let's jump into the homework real quick. So you have a page of questions to answer, and then we have this time tracking sheet. Okay, so the first one is going to be identifying the area that you want to grow in, and the worksheet's going to help you flesh that out, like get a little plan together for how you want to grow in that one area. And then time tracking. Okay, this is why I want you to time track. It's difficult and a little bit time consuming, but it is incredibly insightful if you do it, if you take the time to do it. So I want you to print off this time tracker, and it doesn't matter. Today is Tuesday, so I'd like you to start it today or tomorrow, and you'll just have to wrap around the week. Keep the tracker with you wherever you go. At the end of every single activity, record how long you spent on it. When I do it, I just like simply record. I write down, and I'm talking everything. I drove for 15 minutes. I just sat on the couch and was on Instagram for 30 minutes. Or I read to my kids for 30 minutes. Like every single thing. I just made dinner, or I just cleaned up the house. Whatever it is, there should be no blank spots. When you plan your schedule, there's often blank spots, but this is like, it's opposite. It's like what happened. You're actually recording what happened in your day. Everything, no blank spots. Then when you go back through, if you want to color coordinate it, if you can recognize emotions during the day and just try to identify what drives you, what activities were like completely draining for you, and then which ones were like really motivating, which ones did you walk away from like energized? Do you notice how different tasks in your day impact your desire to work on the next thing, on the next task? And then I also want you to try to notice, when are you most prone to disruptions and distractions? And how do you handle the impulse to work on something else when you're supposed to be working on your most important task? These are some questions to ask yourself. You can jot these down in the margin of the paper. You can use a color coding system. But I don't want you to make any assessments on it yet. Just simply record your time. I haven't done this in a couple of years until now. I did it last week, and it's hard to see, and it's going to be insightful on where your time is going and how aligned or unaligned it is with your priorities. So we're just going to begin that today, and we're going to be working on that for the rest of the week. Okay, giveaway time. So each day I'm going to be giving away a bundle of free items. Of course, the soul planner. This is the brand new soul planner that's not even available yet. It will be available in a couple days. The website's going to open up on the 8th. You're going to get my favorite highlighters, my favorite stencils. I have a brain dump notepad, like a tear off notepad, a visual timer, my favorite pens. And this year I have custom soul planner washi tape, a little packet of them, and you'll get that as well in the giveaway. So in order to be entered for the giveaway, you want to go to the Facebook group, click the link for that in your email, and I want you to comment in the post for today, what's the area that you're going to grow in? What's your one area that you're going to grow in? And if you have questions too, there are other people in our group that is their strength. That's the great thing. We have different areas we want to grow in. So throw a question in there too. But I'm going to pick someone from the comments to give the planner bundle away too. So guys, day 1 is the longest. I promise it'll be shorter. But it's also the foundation. And so I want you to be really clear on the area that you're going to grow in your emotions. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about the balance of home and work, both personal and professional. That's a big question I get a lot. And then day 3, we're going to wrap it up with some practical strategies for you. So thank you. And I can't wait to see you guys in the Facebook group.